Jonathan and Jennifer, and you're watching Well-Traveled Life. Today we are in Burnie, on the island of Tasmania in Australia. In both area and population, Tasmania is the smallest of the 5 Australian states. It is an island off the coast of Victoria, on the southeast part of the country, separated from the mainland by the Bass Strait. The 150 miles from the continent takes a full day or night to sail by ship or ferry. We were scheduled to have a day in Burnie at the top of the island and a day in Hobart at the bottom of the island. But due to uncharacteristically bad weather and a storm that was really socked in coming from the east, we were forced to abandon Hobart as a port. We did spend the day in Burnie, but we had to change our plans. We were unable to get up to Cradle Mountain, but I had booked a private tour with Cradle Mountain Tours. Howard and Juliet were amazing guides who arranged for transportation and made an entirely new itinerary on the fly.
We're on the northwest coast of Tasmania, which is probably the best part of the whole island. Hobart is the capital, it's down the south. And look, Hobart's about 200,000 people, so it's about 10 times the size of Burnie. This is the best end of the state. We don't get the droughts up here. Even in the middle of summer, it's still green and lush, just like it is right now. We grow all the food up here for the rest of the state with a food basket. Summer doesn't really start in Tasmania until Boxing Day.
With a mild maritime climate, Tasmania's summers have temperatures in the 80s at the highest and in the winters in the 50s for the lows. So you might want to compare it to Seattle or Portland. Burnie's cruise port terminal shares space with the industrial port. There's a free shuttle bus that will collect you from the terminal and take you into the city. And there are taxis also available at the terminal, and tours will leave directly from the terminal. You will see heaps of what appears to be sawdust and timber from what used to be their paper milling industry. Burnie was a large manufacturing with huge paper factory mills and paint factories that were having environmental implications that weren't welcomed. The companies were asked to clean up or ship out, and they have left. So Burnie has had to really relook at how they are supporting themselves.
Poor old Burnie has taken a fair old hit, but luckily, and to its credit, it's picked itself up off the carpet and reinvented itself. They're doing more medium-sized manufacturing now, which is computer-based.
Because Tasmania separated from Australia over 10,000 years ago, there's definitely some differences in their animal and plant species. There are no dingoes and there are no emus, although there may have been emus in the past. Because Tasmania does not have the eucalyptus trees and leaves that the koalas like, there are no koalas there, but you will find the very elusive platypus. Fernglade lies on the Emu River and offers a walk as well as a viewing point for perhaps seeing the platypus. They're very shy and timid, so sit quietly and just watch.
We're all part of the continent called Gondwana land, and that all got split up thousands of years ago as well. So it's no wonder we do look a bit like New Zealand in places, but our mountains aren't as high here, and our rivers are brown instead of blue.
In the summer months in particular, you want to be careful in areas with long grass.
And this is snake season coming up now. We've got 3 types of snake in Tasmania. There's the brown snake, the copperhead, and the tiger snake. And I've been told the tiger snake is the 3rd most poisonous snake in the world. Now, one thing we do allow in Tasmania is free camping. They can stay there pretty much as long as they like with their camper vans and their caravans. Penguin's famous for its big penguin. They dress him up with different clothes. Christmas, obviously, he's got a Santa suit on. It's a lovely little town. It's right on the very waterfront here.
Any town with its own brew company on the beach is a good town in my mind.
They've done a makeover with Penguin. Some of the rubbish bins or the guideposts have got little penguins on them. So Penguin was going to undergo a major refit about 15 years ago. They were going to knock a lot of these old buildings down and put up those trendy cafes and the little apartment blocks. The locals said, we don't want that here. We're happy with the way Penguin has been and is now, and we don't want to change. People here seem to shun development, to some extent. The Penguin has done a lot to try and make the town look pretty with all the flowers and stuff on both sides of the road. People take a lot of care, don't they, of their gardens. They're all looking quite pretty with all the flowers at the moment. It's a good time of year for roses and things to be blossoming.
Driving along the coast, there are various islands and rock formations. This one is Goat Island, but it has no goats.
You can get out to it on low tide, but then that will be cut off when it's high tide. Now this is a lovely little lookout.
The Three Sisters are bird sanctuaries that are actually 3 small islands just off the coast.
We get pelican, cormorant, jag. Penguins don't tend to live out on the island. The penguins live along the coast and they make their nest in amongst the little boobialla bushes.
Although there are train tracks throughout the island, right now they are only used for transporting goods.
They're thinking of expanding the passenger train along here between Penguin and Devonport.
Chocolate lovers looking for gifts to give or treats for themselves will enjoy the Anvers Chocolate Factory. It really is a unique place that's got a little chocolate museum, a chocolate factory with a viewing window where you can see the confections being made by hand, as well as a tasting room, a cafe serving traditional Belgian breakfasts, and high tea in the afternoons. And with 2 hectares of gardens, it is a lovely place to sit and have an early morning breakfast or an afternoon tea. It's open 7 days a week from 9 to 5 for the tasting room and 7 to 5 for the museum and cafe. It is right on the Bass Highway in Latrobe. Stretching across the northwest part of Tasmania is the Tasting Trail, which goes from Launceston to Smithton and offers over 40 opportunities to stop at cellar doors, fruit stands, produce shops, distilleries, and get everything from sweets, food boards. So we've traveled along the coast from Burnie to Penguin and have moved on to Latrobe.
Latrobe, one of my favourite little towns, I guess, along the coast here. It's very pretty. It's one of the oldest towns. So the first settlers who came to Tasmania were the British. Because they realised the climate was very similar to England, you get a lot of the English trees, a lot of the English flowers, so there's lots of roses and that sort of stuff. And it looks like a bit of old England here. Latrobe is famous for 2 things. The platypus, they don't like the bright sunlight, so they hide in the little burrows. The other thing that Latrobe is famous for is the sport of wood chopping.
Turning inland from Latrobe, we headed to Railton. Railton is a small working class neighborhood who came up with an idea to make themselves stand out since they're on their way to Sheffield, which is a highly touristed town. Railton residents decided that they would become a town of topiaries. That is, topiaries are living things. They need consistent and constant maintenance and care, and oftentimes the topiaries begin looking rough or residents aren't able to take care of them the way that they used to, and they risk becoming known as
town in need of a haircut. But my favourite topiary is a little girl on a horse and the little doggy is following faithfully behind.
Continuing up into the hills, we come to Sheffield, which is another town that found itself fighting the loss of its young people and needing to find an identity. They did so by following a town in Canada that 2 residents had visited. This Canadian town made a mark by using the sides of their buildings for murals, and Sheffield has now become known for its heritage murals as well as international competitions.
There are 9 billboards there that have all been painted by 9 individual mural artists, and then after a week of painting, the judges come in and say, right, we're going to judge the best mural, and the winner got $15,000. They call it Mural Fest, not just locals. They're coming from around the world, and it has been a real success story for Sheffield.
Tasmania is known for its makers, and this hub around Sheffield is especially popular for woodworkers. If you go to only one place in Sheffield, make it Heather's Blue Gum Gallery Souvenir Shop. Heather is proof that a local with good knowledge is the perfect supplement to a self-guided tour.
Hi, I'm Heather. I run the Blue Gum Gallery in Sheffield, Tasmania. We are known as Sheffield Town of Murals because we have murals as a theme. We have 2 sets of murals in Sheffield, a historic set which depicts some event or happening in the Kentish municipality, Kentish being the municipality that you're standing in, which is nothing to do with Kent in England. It is named after Nathaniel Liscombe Kentish, who was a surveyor in 1841 who surveyed the area. We also have the first mural art competition in the world. It is not the only mural art competition in the world anymore, but it was the first. And they are painted in full public view over 5 days, and they are painted to a writing, a poem or a theme. And they are usually painted now in November every year. Tasmania is well known for woodcraft because one of our woods, Huon pine, only grows in Tasmania, grows absolutely nowhere else on the planet. And we used to have more wood turners per capita than any other place on the planet. I don't think we do anymore because unfortunately they are a dying breed because they're generally older people and the younger ones just don't want to take it up anymore. But all of our woodcraft is made on the island. Most of it is made within a 30-kilometre radius of this building. Tasmanian oak, there is actually no such thing as a Tasmanian oak tree. Tasmanian oak is a colloquial term for plantation timber. It can be gum, eucalypt or pine. It is a renewable resource. But we put it in there for education and just to inform people about our Tasmanian timbers.
The Sheffield Art Gallery, which lies in the centre of town, right in front of the mural competition area, is a great place for art and artifacts from the area and again underscores that maker's heritage of Tasmania. Just 15 minutes from Burnie and on the tasting trail is Hellyer's Road Distillery. With global awards, Hellyer's is known for its artisanal single malt whiskies from the remote areas of northwest Tasmania. Located high on a bluff, it makes for a distinctive tasting experience.
Hello, and I'm Amanda from Hellyer's Road Distillery in Tasmania. With our whisky flights, we've got beautiful vintage cheese from Ashgrove, which is down near Elizabethtown, with some house-made sourdough croutons from yours truly, and it comes with a nut and fruit mix. There's also a chocolate one, which comes with the creamy liqueurs, which are matched with each flavour. So we've got an original, a hazelnut, a coffee and a salted caramel.
With 5 different tasting flights, you may need an entire day and a couple of friends to help you get through the menu.
I've met plenty of males which stock up on the cream liqueurs, and I've met plenty of females which love the car strip, which is 62%.
I tried the liqueur flight with Amanda's homemade chocolates and brought some home. Just 5 minutes further inland from Hellyer's is Guide Falls. By car, the falls are easily accessible. There's a parking lot at the top where you can get dropped off. There is a path with stairs that you can walk down along the side of the waterfall to the river, and your car can pick you up again at the bottom where there's another parking lot. Much of Tasmania is rural, and certainly in the northern part, you'll see a great deal of farmland. But what they're growing might surprise you.
Yeah, the soil here is very, very rich. It's organic, volcanic soil, and very good for growing all sorts of crops. That crop there that looks like snow, well, it's called pyrethrum. It gives off a pollen or a dust that insects and creepy crawlies absolutely hate. They use pyrethrum, a natural insecticide. You can't really put it in yourself. You've got to get it put in under pressure by a specialist.
Tasmania is one of the primary growers of poppies. The flowers are processed and sold to drug manufacturers in America. You can see from this chart that demand has not diminished even in the face of the American opioid crisis.
If you see a sign on the fence that says keep out, it'll be a poppy paddock.
Like every place in the world, Tasmania is dealing with competing industries and resources. Wildlife, farming, timber, and livestock all compete for land, water, and profit margins.
These trees are our old growth eucalypt. Look, it takes about 50 years for a eucalyptus to grow to its full maturity.
Tasmania has been really reliant on the forestry industry and has actually cut down quite a bit of their old growth eucalyptus in order to make paper pulp and wood chip. What they did was they planted California pines in their stead because they grow quickly and they can harvest them much, much faster. Unfortunately, the California pine is not native to Australia, especially not to Tasmania, and it does not provide an adequate habitat for native animals and insects. As the old growth eucalyptus forests are being cut down, replaced with the pines, it's depleting the natural environment for native species. Since we had Howard as our tour guide, it only seemed appropriate to go ahead and get the inside scoop on as much as we could.
Australia's heritage colours tend to be cream, green and maroon. Our national dish in Tasmania is a meat pie. Scallop pies are the go here.
The echidna and the platypus are unique in so many ways, but one of the big ways is that they are both monotremes.
Egg-laying mammal is what a monotreme is.
4 species of echidnas, and you might want to think of them as like a spiny anteater or a long-billed porcupine. And the duck-billed platypus is one of a kind. They live only in Australia, particularly Tasmania, and in Papua New Guinea. Howard and Juliet have lived in Tasmania, both in Hobart and up outside of Burnie, for over 30 years, so they bring a lot to the table as far as information, and we've asked them what are the top spots in the entire island.
Tasmania's tourist attraction, but the number one tourist attraction for Tasmania would have to probably be Museum of New Art. Salamanca Market is very popular too, but that's only on a Saturday. The east coast of Tasmania is also a popular place called Freycinet or Wineglass Bay. Cradle Mountain is probably about number 4. You really need to see it in good weather, otherwise you can't see a thing. And Launceston has a place called Cataract Gorge, which is probably, they're the top 5 for the whole of Tasmania.
There you have it. We hope you enjoyed our tour of Tasmania, or at least the northern coast. Thanks to Howard and Juliet for a great tour. And if you'd like to work with them independently, you can reach them through Cradle Mountain Tours. Their website is in the description. We think you'll like our entire series on Australia. For a view from the air, check out our video on Broome, and for a view from underwater, go look at Kangaroo Island.